Hey everybody, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to play with some gelatos today. I love these and I don't play with them often enough. They are a creamy sort of crown that is sort of like, has like a lipstick consistency, and it works sort of like a lipstick or a chapstick where you roll it up, you can roll it down, and it's just really creamy and smooth and fun to play with. It blends beautifully. There's a ton of colors. Some of them are pearly, some of them are super bright like this yellow, and I really like using them with stencils. There's of course a whole bunch of things that you can do with these, but we're going to focus on one type of technique, which is sort of like a reverse stenciling technique. So we're going to jump in and play. Let me show you the colors that we're working with. This is iced currant, which is one of those beautiful pearly colors that I mentioned. This is lemon. Then we have mango. And last we've got blood orange. All really pretty colors. I'm keeping them in the same color family, just so that I don't get any mud when we start playing. In addition, we are going to be using the Chunks stencil from A Colorful Life Designs, and I'll have links to everything below in the description. So let's talk about our paper. I have some sheet music that I put some gesso on. Let me grab my gesso. This is a really old bottle of gesso and I'm almost out of it. Gesso is a primer. It's a way to make things accept paint. It helps things move better. It helps you blend things like gelatos better. It's just really great stuff. You can get it in white, you can get it in clear, and you can get it in black. When I'm working on a white paper or off-white, as this one is, I tend to use the white. And then if I'm using black cardstock, I use the black, but you can change them up however you like. So I gessoed it first because that helps our gelatos move much nicer. And now all we're going to do is we're going to start to play. So think about back when you were younger, like really younger, like toddler, and you would just take crayons and you would just scribble with them. That's what we're doing. Don't think about it, just play. Just scribble. So that was that blood orange color. We're going to go in with the iced currant now, and I'll hold this up to the camera in a moment. This one has a beautiful shimmer that I really love. And I cut my piece of paper down to bigger than I normally do for a card front, just because I don't know how things are going to wind up. There might be a section that I like a little bit better than another, so I might trim it off. But you can see how that shimmer is so pretty. Now we're going to go in with the lemon. And I'm not thinking about this. I'm just scribbling, adding color all over. And we can clean this up with a tissue or paper towel, whatever, but I'm not going to worry about that right now in case I need to add some more. And then I'm just going to finish with my fourth color here and just get this to look like a big hot mess. That's the point. We want it to look like that. This is one of those opportunities where you can just play and not worry about what the outcome is. This is just water that I've sprayed on here. Now we're going to use our finger. If you don't want to use your finger, you don't have to. You can grab gloves, you can use a tissue, paper towel. I don't mind getting messy. So I'm going to just take my finger and I'm going to just blend these together as much or as little as I want. You don't have to go crazy. They move so beautifully because we've gessoed the page and we used water. You don't have to use water if you don't want to. I like to. I get more of a watercolor look to it that way. I'm just going to smooth these out. Again, I'm not really thinking about it. If you're in a space where you have no mojo or you're not sure what you feel like working on or whatever, I always say make backgrounds. Make backgrounds, make backgrounds, because you'll end up using them eventually. You can cut them up, whatever. And this is one of those things that you can just mess around and not worry too much. And it gets your creative juices flowing again. And it's just really fun. Okay, so we've got that, right? You just rub this a little bit more. And these dry pretty quickly, especially if you don't use a whole lot of water. So that's what we have. And I really like that the music notes are showing through just a little bit. I purposely didn't go too heavy on the gesso because I wanted those music notes to show. Okay, we're going to give this a moment to dry, and then we're going to put the stencil on top. Okay, this is pretty dry. I'm going to lay my stencil on top. Again, I made this bigger than I needed, which is totally fine. It's okay that my stencil doesn't fit perfectly. And we're going to hold this in place. Now, let me take a moment to talk about the stencil. The stencil I chose, which again is called Chunks, has big areas of negative space, the areas that are the open spots where you would essentially ink through typically, okay? You can do this with most any stencil, but I recommend not choosing something that has too small of a design because it might be a little trickier to do the technique we're going to do. So that's why I chose this one. And I also don't recommend using pixie spray on the back. Try to just hold it in place, or if you have like a sticky mat that you can put underneath, do that. You can even tape it down. I don't bother. Now I'm just taking a baby wipe and I'm going to remove the color. And if you find that the color isn't removing so much, you're just going to go to a different area of your baby wipe and keep going. If there's too much color on the wipe, then it kind of just pushes the color around as opposed to removing it. The pixie spray is great for if you're using regular ink, but I find that with this, it sort of lifts up the color a bit where you don't want it to. So pixie spray is awesome for other techniques, but not my favorite for this one. And if you don't have baby wipes, you can use a wet paper towel, you can use a tissue, you could even use your fingers if you really want to, but you're not going to get quite as much lift as we are right now. So you just want to make sure that you hold your stencil in place really carefully so that it doesn't shift on you, and just keep flipping that baby wipe around so that this way you keep cleaning off the gelatos that we applied. There we go. Ready? Let's see what we've got. How cool is this? Look at that background. That's so fun. Look at the shimmer. Oh, I love that. We missed one little spot here. Let me just put this back. And another nice thing about using these larger open areas is that you can realign your stencil really easily. See? Now that's all better. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. Okay, I'm going to trim this down and we'll make a card. Off camera, I die cut this Hey Boo from Essentials by Ellen out of some yellow mulberry paper and some burgundy cardstock. I thought that those colors worked really well with this. And of course it needed a little something else. So I heat embossed this I Miss Your Face from the Simon Says Stamp and CZ Design Simple Sentiments #1. I use this one a lot. And I heat embossed it out of rose gold embossing powder from Stampendous. It has a really pretty shine to it, and it works really well with the rest of the card. Okay, so we need to do a little something else, because if you know me, you know that I don't like to leave my cardstock, my card base, plain white. So we're going to add some color to that. So let's do that right now. I have my Saltwater Taffy Distress Spray Stain, and we are going to paint this on the border. I don't want to spray it, I want to paint it. We could also just use the ink pad itself, but I had this out already, so I figured why not just paint it on. And to get a nice watercolor effect because we're painting it as opposed to using the ink. So it's nice and soft, but it still has that saturated color. And I like to do this with a lot of my sprays. I don't tend to spray my sprays too often. I do, but a lot of times I just paint them on the edges of my card, and I get nice solid color without a lot of effort. Sometimes when you ink up the edges of your card, it could be a little harsher than you want, or you could get harsh lines from the ink pad itself, whatever. So to avoid that, I just use a paintbrush. Okay, we're going to glue this panel together. Let's get the sentiments on here first. I've got my Barely Arts glue. And I'm going to try to only get it where the letters are, because I don't want it to show through the mulberry paper. It's sort of like a vellum. It has that translucency to it. So I don't want that to show. And you don't need a whole lot of glue. Okay. Cute. And then we're going to just add our sentiment strip and get this on here. So I did this video because I recently did a Facebook Live for Stamp Anything, and I was in the mood to play with gelatos, so I did this very technique, and I said, you know, I should just make a quick video on my YouTube channel and share it there as well. But I will link the live that I did for Stamp Anything in my description box, so you can definitely check it out. It will remain in the Stamp Anything group forever. And I have my samples that I made that I can show you at the end of this video too. You can get totally different looks depending on what colors you use and what stencils you use. It's just a fun, quick technique. Now, quick word, the gelatos are water soluble. So just like when you're working with water soluble inks, once you're happy with what you've done, you don't want to get them re-wet. So no licking your projects, okay? But you can seal it if you use a spray sealer, which is what I sometimes do, but you know, I'm anticipating that whoever gets this card is not going to lick the card, so I'm not going to bother with that right now. I think that we need some rhinestones, so we're going to add a few. I'm going to get my pokey tool, I've got my jewel picker, I've got my on-point glue, and we're going to add a few rhinestones to this baby. Okay, I've got them all placed because nobody wanted to watch me do that. And now we're going to stick them all down. Again, I've got my jewel picker in my left hand, on-point glue in my right, and then in between my first two fingers is my pokey tool so that I can easily pick up glue and then release the rhinestone without making myself crazy. This is one of my favorite tips to show people when they're working with sequins or rhinestones. It just makes life so much easier. And then once we get these last few on there, we will have a finished card without a whole lot of effort. It really doesn't take long to make these at all. And you know, the fact that you can make a whole bunch of them really quickly, especially when you're down on the mojo level, it's really helpful. One more. All right, there we have it. We got some shine. We got a little texture going. Lots of color. And a fun way to use our stencils. Let me show you the other samples that I did the other day. So these are with Stamp Anything stencils. This is with their bubble stencil. So pretty, right? Perfect for an underwater scene, something with a mermaid. This is with retro circles. This one is super shiny. And of course, I can't remember off the top of my head the name of this one, but I will have it linked below. But those were what we made on the live, and if you want to see that all happen from start to finish, I will have that linked in my description box. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you give it a try. If you do, be sure to show me what you make. I'd love to see it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Stay safe, be well, peace out.